OpenAI just dropped their latest o3-mini model right after DeepSeek's R1 release. Is it a coincidence? Probably not. But with both of these models now available in Windsurf, it's time to put them head to head to find out which one actually delivers when building full stack real world applications. I'll be comparing the code generation speed, the accuracy at which these LLM follow the instructions, UI design, error handling, and finally the cost of running these models. I'll be giving both of these models the same instructions to build out an AI powered document analyzer that I created in a previous video using Claude Sonnet 3.5, but this time we're integrating with Supabase for user authentication and database storage. This is the most comprehensive test of these models that you'll find today, so who's going to come out on top? Let's find out. And if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Ahmed. I'm a GenAI engineer and founder of Agenix AI, where we help businesses implement AI solutions and automations. I also run a school community where I share all the different templates, source code, and resources that I cover on this channel. We also do weekly Q&A sessions where people can hop on and ask questions and share different insights. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. A few weeks ago, I did a full masterclass on using Windsurf to build out full applications using AI. So if you want step-by-step instructions on how to build the app that we're covering today, go ahead and check that video later on. If you've been anywhere near the internet lately, you must have heard of DeepSeek's latest R1 model. People are going crazy, building all kinds of different solutions with it. But if you haven't, we can quickly just cover the release documentation. Essentially, it's an open source reasoning model that's basically on par with the performance of OpenAI's O1 model. They have a website where you can use it for free, or they have an API where you can connect and build out different applications and solutions with it for very cheap. You can see the performance is amazing across all the different benchmarks, and I'm not going to go through it, but I'll leave a link to this documentation down in the description below. One thing I wanted to cover is the cost of running DeepSeek R1 model via the API. So for the input tokens, it's only 14 cents per million tokens, which is crazy. And for the output tokens, it's $2.19 per million tokens. And I'll compare that to OpenAI's o3 model in just a second. But first, let's quickly just go over the release of OpenAI's o3-mini model. So this model is being aimed at being cost efficient and fast when it comes to reasoning models. And this is their first reasoning model that actually supports function calling and structured outputs. And I can't wait to start building AI solutions with it. So if we quickly just glance over at the benchmarks, so it looks like they have 3 different versions of the o3-mini, low, medium, and high. And the highest one actually has better performance than the previous O1 model, which is insane. Again, I'm not going to cover all the different benchmarks in this video. However, I'll leave a link to this in the description below. What I do want to do is cover the pricing of the o3-mini model. So it costs $1.10 per 1 million input tokens and $4.40 per 1 million output tokens. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that the output tokens actually include the internal reasoning tokens generated by the model that you don't see in the output. However, when it comes to using these models to build out applications using Windsurf, the cost is slightly different. Inside Windsurf, we're basically charged based on user credits, and DeepSeek R1 takes 0.5 user prompt credits and 0.5 flow action credits, whereas o3-mini takes 1 user prompt credit and 1 flow action credit, which basically means we're able to generate double the amount of code if we use DeepSeek R1 in comparison to the o3-mini model. And now that we have this covered, let's jump on and start building out this application inside of Windsurf, first using the DeepSeek R1 model. Right, so I'm actually going to use the same document for the Windsurf masterclass to get the app started. And essentially we can skip all of these steps. We have everything configured. Again, if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. What we want to first do is start with the prompt writer, so the Windsurf prompt writer. And this is to get the initial prompt instructions for Windsurf to give it all the information that it needs to build out the application. And I didn't start from scratch, so I pasted in the original instruction file prompt, and then I asked it to update the instruction, keeping everything the same, but adding Supabase integration for user authentication and database storage, and also add a login and sign up page. And I've just pasted in the complete instruction file, and then it gave it back to me in markdown format, and then we just copy everything back into Windsurf to get started. Right, so we start with a brand new folder opened up inside of Windsurf, and I'm just going to go and create a new terminal and paste in the commands to create the Next.js application and also install Azure's document intelligence for analyzing the PDFs. Hit enter. Right, so now that we have everything installed and set up, first thing we have to do is create the instruction file. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that quickly. And we just paste in the complete instructions that we generated. So this is basically a document analyzer web application designed to automate processing of invoice PDFs. So users are able to upload invoice files, specify fields for extraction, and then view the extracted data, and also have the ability to download those into a CSV or JSON file. So we have everything here pasted. What I also had to do is modify things slightly just to make sure that it follows what we actually want it to do. And I'll be building the application in steps of the different features. So I'll give it the same prompt every time, asking it to implement a single feature at a time. If you can see from the right hand side here, this is where we enter our prompt, and we can also select the model that we want. So previously I was always using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. However, now that we have o3-mini with medium reasoning for 1 credit, and also DeepSeek R1 model for 0.5 the credit. So I'm going to go ahead and build out this application. I don't need to show the step by step because this video is going to be way too long. However, at the end, I'm going to come back and show you guys everything that happened, the time it took, and also look at all the different things that went wrong. And finally, we'll look at the UI and compare the two. Right, so here we have the final comparisons table, and let's go through and find out what happened. The R1 model took over 2 minutes and 44 seconds just to complete the first feature. So as you can see, it does a lot of reasoning, and it's good to see how the model thinks and plans to fix the issues and create the different code generations. However, sometimes it does get stuck in a loop and it uses up way too many tokens. Sometimes even after it finishes the code generation and doing the different modifications, it will still try to reason and modify the code even further. And it got to the point where I had to just actually stop the generation because it used up way too many tokens. However, when it came to the OpenAI's o3-mini model, it only took under a minute to complete the first feature. And as you can see here, it goes straight into generating the codes. I was actually first quite confused that it went straight into generating the code and we don't see any of the thinking. It would have been nice to see the thinking process. However, I'm not complaining because he just went ahead, did what he was told, and completed the generations with no issues. And I was actually quite shocked that he actually followed the instructions to a T. Usually with Sonnet 3.5 or DeepSeek, it would just try to fill in the blanks. Sometimes it will do more than one feature at a time. However, when it came to o3-mini model, it just did what it was told. And this is why when it came to the accuracy, I gave the R1 model 3 stars. With o3 model, I gave it 4 stars. And this would have been 5 stars. However, sometimes it might be way too rigid and it just does exactly what you tell it to. And for some, that might be a pain because if you tell it to do one component, for example, it will go ahead, do that with no issues. However, it wouldn't actually integrate it into the page until you ask it to. But in my opinion, I quite like this because I prefer going step by step and make sure everything is actually correct than just the LLM doing way too much. And then I have to go in there myself and clean up the code, removing all the unwanted parts. And then when it came to the errors and the bugs, the R1 model had 18 different errors occurred during the build process of the application. Whereas when it came to the o3-mini, there was only 7 errors that occurred. So you can see the difference here. And even with the troubleshooting of those errors, the R1 model really took a long time to actually finally solve the issues. There was a lot of back and forth until we actually fixed the problems. At one point, it gave me a completely wrong fix. I had to actually go in there, fix it myself. And another time I had to actually go back just to using Sonnet 3.5 to fix the problem because it just wouldn't do it with the R1 model. However, that only happened once. And in the end, it managed to successfully create the login sign up flow with Supabase and the simple plain dashboard page. One thing that I have found with both of the R1 and the o3-mini models, a lot of times they'll just advise me on what to fix and what to change. They won't actually go ahead and implement those changes. I would have to ask them again and again to actually use the edit tool and make those changes for me. This happened multiple times. With the R1 model, I'd have to actually just create a whole new chat. The first few entries in a new chat, it would be fine. And then it starts to do this error where it wouldn't actually make the changes and I have to start a new chat. With the o3-mini, I would just have to tell it to actually go ahead, use the tool and make those changes. And most of the time it did that okay. I'm not sure if this is an error with the LLMs themselves. I feel like this might be more to do with Windsurf and hopefully this can get fixed real soon. When it came to the UI design, I gave the R1 model 2 stars because fixing the UI was a nightmare. There was a lot of back and forth to finally get it to look presentable. And even then, it didn't really look the best. Keep in mind, I didn't actually ask it for too much. I kept it simple and didn't want to add too many colors and crazy layouts. And I just wanted a very clean, simple UI that's very easy to navigate and use. So you can compare this with the o3-mini model. I gave it 4 stars because it's very simple, it's very clean, and you can see everything's presented nicely and it just works. Of course, it's not the best, but I didn't ask it to go crazy. I just wanted a very clean, simple UI and without including too many colors. And I think it did that pretty well. So going to the cost efficiency, I've already covered this. It's only 14 cents per 1 million tokens. I just put the input here and 0.5x for the Windsurf credit for the R1 model. Whereas the o3-mini model, it was $1.10 per 1 million tokens and 1x the Windsurf credit. And finally, most of this stuff I've already covered, but I'll leave this up on the screen if you want to pause and read it. And in conclusion, I'd say that o3-mini was faster, more precise, and required fewer corrections. However, it followed instructions strictly and lacked deeper reasoning insights because we couldn't even see what's happening behind the hood. However, it did the job well. And while some might find this quite rigid, I actually prefer this cleaner approach over DeepSeek's excessive reasoning and just using up way too many tokens, creating unnecessary parts of code. And so if you want a model that actually reasons through problems, I feel like DeepSeek is good. It has potential, but it does require patience and a lot of manual debugging. But if you prefer efficiency, minimal errors, and more structured approach, I think the o3 model is definitely a clear winner. That being said, this is just my personal take on this, and this is just from the initial testing and using these models in the past day or so. I think both models have their strengths and weaknesses. I'll definitely keep using these models over time and keep testing them, and I'll try to find a workaround around the quirks and the different issues that they currently have. And hopefully, I think Windsurf will probably do an update and fix those problems with the models not actually doing the code changes until you have to ask it multiple times. So hopefully that will be solved soon. I'd love to hear your guys' experiences with using these different models. Did you find the R1 model better than the o3? Or did you agree with my conclusion here? Definitely let me know your experiences in the comments below. And that'll be it for this one. I hope you like this video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as always. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.